The Yoga Vasistha often puts the teachings of self-enquiry into highly traumatic situations. Perhaps the individual story we're hearing about concerns loss of parents, or it might be loss of family in a battle, the aftermath of the most gruesome battles. These have been some of the settings of the Yoga Vasistha, some of the stories in the Yoga Vasistha. The Yoga Vasistha has now created its own trauma. It's using the teachings of self-enquiry, of enlightenment, to promote violence, killing, to appropriate action which might be despicable and unrighteous. It's in the form of Krishna's teachings to the warrior Arjuna. Arjuna's conscience is bothering him. He doesn't want to go and kill his uncles and cousins who are on the other side of the battle line. And Krishna overrides his conscience basically, because Krishna is the avatar of Vishnu and they have their own agenda, and it's to cull the human population. So as human beings, we certainly should not be going along with this agenda. And Arjuna should be listening to his conscience. In traditional societies, social order was seen as divinely sanctioned. This is certainly the case within Hinduism. In the West, kings were seen as divinely appointed. But fortunately we've had revolutions which perhaps have been divinely sanctioned as well, otherwise they wouldn't have happened. And this order has been challenged. Corrupt orders have been challenged. They are not divinely sanctioned. Along with the notion of a divinely sanctioned social order comes the notion of dharma, and this means that everybody has their appropriate duty. And this is what Arjuna's been hit over the head with. He's got to perform his duty as a warrior and not question it. Who says a warrior should not question his actions? Social order has no more consequence than the world at large. It can be destroyed. Why should the social order not be destroyed? Especially if it's corrupt. And in this case it clearly is, because Arjuna's eldest brother gambled away the kingdom. And this is what they're fighting about now. What right should somebody who gambles away his kingdom have to govern? And this is the side on which Arjuna is fighting. So this is quite traumatic, I find. I wasn't even going to do this section because it's a total abuse of the teaching of self-enquiry to use it for the justification of violence. Arjuna has allowed his conscience to be overridden in the name of God's word. And this is what all fanatics do. This is what the psychotically deranged argue. They forfeit their conscience and claim that they're acting under divine sanction. We must have no part of this. As it says here, even a fool's natural action is noble in his case. It's not. Nothing noble about the fool's natural action. The fool is acting in accordance with his foolishness. Can we say that the rapist is acting in accordance with his dharma? The child-molester is acting in accordance with his dharma? The mass murderer, the torturer, are they all acting in accordance with their dharma? The performance of action appropriate to you, even if it is despicable and unrighteous, is the best. This is a total perversion of the teaching. It's one that we shouldn't give any allowance to whatsoever. It's a total perversion of the teaching. So, you've performed the action appropriate to you. I think in some cases it's appropriate to challenge the so-called natural order. Make your dharma that of a revolutionary. So you engage in the action appropriate to you, and hopefully in such cases it will be a dharma which actually stands up against a corrupt social order. How much more is this valid in the case of a good man? Engage yourself in action, established in the spirit of yoga and unattached to the action, thus you shall not be bound. So Arjuna should have followed his conscience here, then he would not have been bound. He should have pointed out the corrupt nature of this battle, that they were just being lackeys of the gods who wanted to cull the human race. Be at peace. So what we're going to do now is just focus on the spiritual teaching. The Yoga Vasistha has presented us with this traumatic scenario, which is the perversion of the teachings of self-enquiry to justify slaughter. And we're going to concentrate on the spiritual aspect and ignore that trauma. Be at peace, even as Brahman is peace, and make your action of the nature of Brahman. Thus, doing everything as an offering unto Brahman, you will instantly become Brahman. Well, how do you do that? How do you make an offering unto Brahman? This language of making offerings to Brahman is not very helpful. You turn your attention to your own attention and realize your nature as Brahman. You don't make any offerings to it. The only way that you make an offering is by taking every opportunity to do this. You take any opportunity, anything which happens, that could be the offering. You turn your attention to yourself, and that's you completing the offering. Then you realize your nature as Brahman. You do not instantly become Brahman. You realize your nature as Brahman. The Lord dwells in all. By performing all your actions as an offering unto him, shine as the Lord adored by all. Become a true sannyasi, renunciate, by firmly abandoning all thoughts and notions. Thus you shall liberate your consciousness. You should also abandon all thoughts of, all notions of dharma. It was mentioned that by due performance of your dharma you become immortal here. Well, this isn't immortal in the sense of becoming spiritually enlightened. By performing dharma you're promised heaven. You're promised the rewards in heaven. Again, this is a good way of getting people to overturn their own conscience by promising them rewards in heaven, by promising them immortality. Then they'll override their own conscience. The cessation of all thoughts and notions or mental images, and the cessation of heavy psychological conditioning are the supreme self or Brahman. So, the cessation of all notions, including notions of social order, notions of purification, notions of dharma. Let's drop them all. Striving towards this end is known both as yoga and as wisdom, jnana. The conviction that Brahman alone is all, including the world and the I, is known as offering everything to Brahman. It's not a conviction, it's a realization. A conviction is a concept, is an intellectual and emotional standpoint. We're not interested in offering anything to Brahman. We're only interested in realizing Brahman at every moment.